Good evening, everyone. How are you? The last week we've been talking about a well-being model, and last night we spoke about sleep. So, how would you feel if you were able to get more preparation time in? Well, what if it came about because of how we sleep, or more importantly, how we're dreaming, or so? So, we actually sleep for about a third of our lives, and just like we found out last night, that there's a purpose for sleeping, that our brain detoxifies while we're sleeping. Now, for much of the time that we're asleep, we are actually dreaming in some form or other. And about 66% of our dreams are filled with kind of scary things. So we've got to think, perhaps like sleeping, there's a purpose to dreaming. And what might that be? Well, this question has, been at the front of many people's minds for over many centuries, and probably way longer than that, probably millennia. People have been pondering the question of why we actually dream. Well, some researchers have been exploring this, and as in psychology they're prone to, they looked at rats and the behaviour of rats, because we and rats are actually somewhat similar. So what they found was that when they studied these rats, that their normal protective behaviours weren't actually happening. So what they started to come up with was, what is the theory around this behaviour? So behaviour that would normally be quite protective for a rat just sort of wasn't there. So that would lend them to become easy prey for larger animals. So this experiment, where they deprived the rats of their REM, deep sleep kind of time, made them to start to think, well, dreaming actually, this part of their sleep actually really serves a particular function. So one of the theories is that it actually gives us an opportunity to prepare and visualize, or simulate threats, because with that 66% of our sleep time that is filled, or 66% of our dreams that's filled with these sort of scary, negative-oriented dreams that are pretty threatening. Sometimes we're having to run away from things. Quite often there's monsters in them. We're often falling, sometimes even drowning, but we're generally trying to get out of a pretty negative situation. So what if these dreams, what if they weren't such nightmares, but what if it was really more like night school, and that our dreams were really an opportunity for us to learn and rehearse ways to get out of these threatening situations? That makes dreams, and actually those nightmares, something to welcome rather than to try and really kind of fear and feel concerned about. And the more negative experiences we've had in our own actual life, the more they get called upon in our dream time. So, which is kind of useful. So these situations, or these systems in our brain, have evolved in a way to actually be quite useful and pragmatic. So we know that visualization, when we're awake, it's kind of like an act of daydreaming, has been used as a technique by athletes and martial artists and performing artists and business people often, to really come up with ways to perform better, so they can show that especially from a physical point of view, the things that we're rehearsing we're able to, the same parts of the brain get activated when we are visualizing something as we are when we're actually doing it. So in dreams, we could assume that when we're asleep and dreaming, that the same parts of our brain are actually taking place as well. And again, they're starting to show these things in our dream state. So when we rehearse and when what we're doing at night time, we're rehearsing these things. We're rehearsing the problems, the situations that are challenging us, that are kind of worrying us. They're the kind of things that, whilst it's not an exact replication of what we're challenged by, we've evolved over the thousands of years to be able to kind of work through these problems. And so that when we're faced with these challenges in real life, that we'll be able to optimize our performance, that we'll be able to better respond more quickly without having to think. So just like the athletes, the martial artists, the performing artists, they rehearse the same basic skills, the basic drills, and more complicated aspects of their form over and over again, so that when they're under pressure, they can just perform routinely without having to think about it. And if our nighttime, our dream night school, is actually providing some additional rehearsal time for us, wouldn't it make sense if we could potentially influence that just a little bit by kind of, what would you be choosing to spend that additional 1/3 of your life rehearsing? How could you make great use of that? And rather than thinking of those dreams and nightmares as such a pesty kind of problematic thing, what if you were able to welcome them? Even if it's not exactly the same challenge that you're facing during the day, what if in some way it's helping you? It's helping you perform better. And the fact that you are still alive and that you haven't been chased and eaten by a monster, hopefully, chances are that maybe some of this dream time's actually been serving you well. You're actually performing pretty well during the day. Anyway, hope you enjoy your dream time tonight, and look forward to chatting to you again. Okay, cheers.